Hey guys, welcome back, and today I'm going to do a very basic demonstration on how to screen print. I'm a little out of breath right now because I just went for a run. Should I turn this into like a running channel? Maybe I could somehow mash screen printing and running together. I don't know how that would work. Maybe I could screen print while I'm running, like on a treadmill or something. That's a stupid idea, but today I'm going to show you everything from the design process all the way to exposing and washing out your screen. And I'm also going to do a quick design for the purposes of this demonstration. It's going to be a basic a basic one color design on the front of the shirt, kind of small, so it's really easy to do. And I also have a bucket of emulsion that's about to expire because business has been practically non-existent. Hopefully that changes in the future, but let's go ahead and get started and see how this goes. Alright, I'm just throwing together a quick design in Adobe Illustrator, something that's small in size and will expose fairly well on a 110 mesh screen because that's what we're working with at the moment. Once this design is finished and ready, I will send it to my Canon Pixma IX6820 printer where it will print onto an 8.5 by 11 transparency. Sometimes I like to print it twice and tape the two transparencies together to make it more opaque, but it really depends on what type of printer you're working with and how complicated your design is. Before we can coat our screens with the emulsion, we need to make sure they're nice and clean. So I have a used screen that I'm going to reclaim by first stripping the emulsion. I will first get my screens wet and then spray both sides with an emulsion remover and let it sit for about 10 minutes and just let the remover do its job. After about 10 minutes, I'll simply spray it thoroughly front and back with a pressure washer. I always keep the spray wand at least a foot away from the screen so I don't do any damage to it. Hold it up to some light and inspect it closely to make sure you got it all off. Next, it's important to degrease your screens. It's a similar process. You spray both sides of the screen with a very small amount of degreaser. A little bit goes a long way. And pro tip, you want to make sure that you use a dedicated scrubber, meaning that you have a scrubbing brush on hand that's dedicated only to degreasing screens and nothing else. You don't want to get other chemicals or anything else on this brush that could contaminate your screens, as that could affect your emulsion. And just make sure to thoroughly spray all that degreaser off the screen so that it's squeaky clean. Then find a place to dry your screens off. Once it's nice and dry, we're going to coat our screens with emulsion using a scoop coater in a light safe environment, of course. We take our emulsion and carefully pour it into the scoop coater. As with most of this process, there's all kinds of ways that you can do this, but I like to hold the screen with one hand and lean it back slightly. I was taught to first coat the outside or the back of the screen first and then the front. I'm not entirely sure why, but it works for me, so I just go with it. This part takes practice, and your main goal is to coat it as evenly as possible. You want a smooth, thin, even layer of emulsion on your screen. So I do one coat on the back and one coat on the front. Then you find a place to let it dry. It has to be a light, safe, low humidity environment if possible, and getting a dehumidifier helps with this. And drying the screens horizontally as opposed to vertically is also better for reasons I don't understand. And keep the outside or the back of the screen facing down. You should leave these to dry for at least 12 hours. I like to shoot for a minimum of 24 hours. This is unless you have one of those big expensive drying cabinets, but if you have one of those, then you're probably a legit professional. And why are you watching this video? Now it's time to expose our screen, and I'm going to throw some numbers and times at you, but this might be the most variable part of the whole process. There's just so many factors to consider: your exposure unit, your environment, emulsion type, screen type, mesh count, etc. All of this affects how long you need to expose your screen, but the overall process is really the same. So you can simply tape your transparency to the back of the screen, making sure you have it in the right orientation for printing. You should measure it to make sure it's nice and centered. Then put it on the exposure unit. I had this bucket on top just to apply some pressure. And then set your timer and cook your screen. Once the timer goes off, promptly flip that switch and remove the transparency film. I head back over to the washout booth and get our screens nice and wet, both sides. I turn the lights on so you can see what I'm doing, but normally the lights would still be off at this point. Let it sit for a few minutes. The emulsion absorbs some of the water and it does something chemically to stop the exposing process. Also, letting it soak for a few minutes makes it wash out a little bit easier. So you then take your pressure washer and carefully wash out your design. I recommend getting an exposure calculator. This can help you dial in your exposure times and troubleshoot any problems you might run into. Hopefully your design came out perfectly. You can hold it up to some light and do a quick inspection. Then it's back to the drying rack. All right, this was getting kind of long, so I had to split it into two videos. So this was part one. We started from the very beginning and we covered everything regarding how to prep and burn your screens. So in part two, I'm going to show you everything you need to know about using your screens and getting that design printed and cured using plastisol inks. So stay tuned for that, or you can click through to part two if it's already uploaded. The link will be in the description below. So thanks for watching. Click that subscribe button for more screen printing and design videos. Now go away.